Do you want to know how to build lasting relationships and use those to drive revenue growth? If so, join us on this edition of The Inside BS Show. Hey now, I'm Nikki G. This is the Inside BS Show, and we're recording live today. I am here with Dave Lorenzo, the godfather of growth. Good morning, Dave. How are you?
Hey, Nikki G. I'm doing great. How are you today?
I am fantastic. Loving these new headsets. Folks,
Yeah.
This is going to be a fun recording today.
Nikki G's got the cans on, folks. You got to see Nikki G's cans. They're amazing. It's absolutely unbelievable. So I can't believe that. First of all, I can't believe that you wanted to wear these. I told you I was going to wear mine, and I said, because I don't want to worry about where the mic is. I want to be able to move around and do whatever I need to do. And you were like, oh, we should both get them. And then we could pretend we're airline pilots and we could say all kinds of things like, we're cruising at 30,000 feet. And you were literally doing that while I was setting everything up now. It's like you're a 5-year-old playing with a new toy. It is Christmas time.
We do have fun on the show. We give you the inside scoop, but we certainly have fun with what we're doing.
So this is the first time we're doing a remote recording, and we are in the beautiful offices of Global Furniture. Actually, it's their showroom, and it is like, picture the nicest event space you've been to for a corporate event and then multiply it by 10. That's what this place is like. So we're really fortunate to be here today. And I feel like I am right at home. Like, this is a legit podcast studio. If you want to look, you can go to YouTube and you can see the video. We have 2 different camera angles, and you can see both camera angles from where we're shooting. This is just a little area in their gorgeous showroom. Nicola, tell us why we're here and how we got here.
We are here because a friend of mine, Francisco Ramirez, who is joining us as our guest today, invited us to check out this space, to host some events here. We had the opportunity to do that, and I'll tell you what, it's an incredible space. There's so many different areas for collaboration, so we wanted to host some of our events here, really get a feel for utilizing the full space with what we were doing, and it turned out fantastic. So we wanted to invite Francisco to join us because Francisco is a master in building relationships. That is what he does for a living. That is how we met. So we wanted to give you the inside scoop on how you build those relationships and use them to drive revenue growth in your business.
All right, so let's get right into it. This is, if you're following along at home, the key drivers of enterprise value. This is driver number 7. Well, if it wasn't driver number 7, it is now. So it's driver number 7 for the 10 drivers of enterprise value. And building relationships is essential no matter what business you're in. Those of you who are professionals, you may think that you're not in the sales business, but when you build relationships, what you're doing is you're simply helping the people who you have relationships with, and you're getting paid to do it. So I want to get into really the details of how Francisco builds relationships, but let's start with your background. So first of all, how do you guys know each other? And then we'll get into Francisco's background. So Nicola, how did you meet Francisco? How did Francisco come into our lives?
Francisco came into our lives at the last social event I attended and he attended before the world shut down for the global pandemic. So I went to this one-off social event I wouldn't normally go to. I was just looking to go make some new connections. It happened to be in a location that was convenient for me, so I went. And everyone was very socially awkward because they were trying to figure out, do we kiss hello? Do we use elbows? And it was just a big awkward mess. Yes. And the one person in the room who kind of was like, let's just go with this. You know, I looked at him, he looked at me, and we walked up to each other and just said, hey, hi, who are you? Let's get to know each other. And that was it. We basically talked to each other the entire event. Yeah. We felt like the only 2 normal people there and just carried on as if nothing was happening and forgetting about the world outside and decided we would enjoy the event. And sure enough, we developed a friendship after that. I remember connecting with you throughout the pandemic, talking about, what are we going to do? Can we still reach out to prospective clients? Can we still have conversations about business? And you were such a great resource for all of that, because I remember you were there grinding away, and so was I trying to figure this out.
Totally agree.
All right. So, Francisco, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit about what you do here, because the space here is absolutely beautiful. And I'm old enough to remember a show called Fantasy Island. There was a guy named Mr. Rourke who was like, "Welcome everyone." And that's like whenever we come here, like you're like that guy. You're like, "Come, just use the space. Welcome, have fun." So what is it you actually do?
So I like that intro, but I don't have that accent, unfortunately. It was a very sexy accent. I'm at what they would consider a regional leader, a sales manager for the team here. So I run the South Florida region, and we concentrate on selling to healthcare, the education sector, also workplace, meaning professional services, and I lead that team. So however I can lead that team between architects and designers, business development, territory managers, coordinators for our showroom, I really want to spearhead and mentor a lot of them on how they can be the best for our market.
Okay. And so when it comes to building the relationships, who do you target for within the organization? Who do you target to build relationships with?
In our organization?
No, in organizations that you're looking to work with. Yeah.
So that's a great question. I think everybody's a client at one point or another. Mm-hmm. I was at a Miami Business Club last night, and sometimes you start talking to people like, what do you do? What do you do? And you're like, people start, this is how Nicole and I met. We were like, she's a lawyer, I'm in furniture, I'm in interiors, like, do we have any synergy? But just trying to understand what people do and take an actual interest, I think you automatically, things start popping up and people try to help each other. So I think the targets for me off the cuff are going to be the normal ones, would be anything with interior applications and anything that has incentives to, like, how can we build people to promote their way they work, how they can work better, just anything that has implications on doing better for innovation, workplace. We target that. So those are your usual suspects: brokerage, anything to do with commercial interiors, or retail industry, anything to do with healthcare facilities people. We also target probably the high-level C-suite. Those are the ones that are the COOs and CFOs. They're writing the checks. So really anybody. And we can also target the architects and designers. Those are the most common. It'd be like our doctors that we go write scripts with, right?
Right.
So it's really a very large playing field at the end of the day. But it seems like it's small, but everybody can be a client at the end of the day.
And so when you say anybody can be a client, you guys will sell just that one setup right there to the whole office redo, right?
Yeah. So a lot of times people will say to me, like, what do you do? I'm like, oh, commercial interiors or interior architecture. And like, oh, I need a sofa for my house. I'm like, that's not what I do, and that's not what we do. What we do is we do have spaces that are going to make you work harder, think harder, promote more connections. And those are the things you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Yes, it could be something ancillary. It could be the soft seating. It could be collaboration, open areas, or it could be heads down work where we have actual cubicles or, pods that are going to evoke people to just say, hey, I need to be alone. I need to do my heads down work, or conference room. So all the different applications, you name it, we'll come up with it. And as Global Furniture Group, we are a large portfolio of furniture that really subscribes to any type of work. We do hospitality, but that's not our forefront, but we do a lot of it. I would, to answer your question, anything's possible. You ask us if, hey, you want a couch? We have one. If that's what it went at the end of the day. Maybe not for your home, but probably could work inside there too.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're speaking with prospects. Like, what are you looking for them to say that's a trigger for you?
Yeah.
Like, what tells you, okay, now this might be someone who's really interested in what we do. What are you listening for?
That's a great question. I think three things. I think the first thing is there a renovation, expansion, or maybe even a new build? So those are the things that I probably will look for, because any of those implications are going to mean like, hey, there's a new project, that's new construction, or hey, maybe we're revamping the office, right? Or hey, I'm busting at the seams, I need to add more people, and we need to expand. So those are the things that I'm always keeping in the back of my mind. As far as connections, it's the same thing every time. Listening is the biggest thing, and asking the questions. People love to talk about themselves, and it's just inherent in what we do, So if you can ask those questions and get to know what people do, you start finding out connections along the way and how to weave into their world. And it could be something that's so far-fetched. Sometimes we're talking to accountants and they think I have nothing to do with furniture, but then they realize, oh my God, my COO actually is looking at new space right now, right? So we actually are going to be moving, or we actually are expanding. And so those conversations start, pretty grassroots and start happening like that.
So you don't look for then a specific position when you're speaking with someone, like an accountant. You just gave a good example as an accountant, someone that I wouldn't think would be a likely prospect for you. Right. So are you looking for specific positions or not?
Okay, back to the things. I think ideally the ones we love to work with, which is just the easy ones, are the architects and designers that are in commercial space. They're going to be our bread and butter. The next ones would be someone that's working for an end user directly, that has those decisions, that can make, operation decisions, or CFO or anything like that. And then the last one would probably be an influencer, someone that not necessarily is directly tied, but is an advocate, or someone that says, hey, you need to use them, like you guys, right? I mean, you're doing this, and this is touching who knows how many people that go, I'm actually need to do something about my space.
Dozens of people. Dozens of people will be rushing. No, more like tens of people will be rushing in.
I'll take the one. I don't care. One's even good.
That's all it takes, right? I mean, you're in sales. It's all you need is one real qualified prospect for you.
Absolutely, 100%.
We talk about that often.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's listening all the time and talking. It's interesting to find all the different facets of people and their backgrounds. And our company's worked with so many different types of end users. We just had Sony Latin America here. They were doing something with the Latin Grammys. They used our space. It wouldn't be something you would think off the cuff, but man, they wanted to use our space. We're connecting with them. They want to do something with their spaces now. It's just all sorts of different demographics.
So they came here. They had an event here. Now they want to do something. They want to take your stuff and the designs that you've created.
We started some great conversations to tour their space and take a look at it. And they're a mass corporation, obviously. So we've started some great conversations with our CEO and some of their leaders, and seeing what we can get done. So we'll start moving along with that. Yeah.
So let me ask you this, because a lot of people struggle with this. How do you get into rooms where your ideal clients are?
Where our ideal clients are. I think, honestly, we have to create that. So we do something very similar to what you guys are doing. We do some very specific roundtables, and they are leaders in what they do. So it might be a leader of a construction company. The other one might be an owner's rep, project management rep. The other one might be an actual architect. The other one might be an operations person, an end user. So if you can fill the room and create that environment, that atmosphere, to just synergy and just be able to kind of let that go, and you're the facilitator, it brings a lot of value. So I think that's the easiest way we've found. The other way is obviously, there's a lot of networking associations that just lend themselves to our industry, which could be, like Crew or Commercial Real Estate for Women. There's other ones that are Urban Land Institute. There's the Beacon Council that brings, people an economic engine. So places where we're recruiting as an amazing city here, companies that are growing, anywhere that's happening, and you put yourself in the middle, I think there's tremendous abilities where we can talk about what we do. And it's always going to be tied to some implication where work is being done, the worker, and then the output. So I think that's the end game at the end of the day.
The furniture you have here and the settings that you've created, like the scenes that you've set here for the way the workplace should look, it's very much like the modern, like WeWork type space.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you, because this is not a question I know the answer to, it's a chicken and egg question. Was that collaborative workspace trend, was that in existence and you guys just jumped on board with nicer stuff? Yeah. Or did you guys say, hey, people are going to want a place to collaborate? Because you have some great, like the table that has like a homey kitchen feel to it. Even your conference room, the way that you have it designed has like a built-in bench with up against the wall, very collaborative. So did you guys augment what was already existing, or was this something that you guys were out in front of?
It's a great question, because we need to be intentional, and we do have designers internal in our organization that do all that kind of planning, and we look at the trends. We obviously study the trends. We understand, hey, maybe the pendulum swing where it's not open office. Maybe it's now people do need private office. So we look at that. We look at that open plan and how it needs to be fluid. So what you're mentioning is the ability to change and adapt very quickly. So once you come in here, you see the space is open, it's inviting. There's little pockets that you can kind of break away at. And then there's kind of, you can see as you go more into it, there's more of a cafe setting, more communal. And then there is heads down work area. And then you have a conference. So we try to make it so it's very intentional that when we do have a working showroom, because it is an office at the end of the day, but it's a showroom, that people can work out of here. And then we do invite guests that, hey, they can put their laptop, come in at any time. And so as you guys know, and Nicole, I was like, hey, why don't you use our space? We say that to a lot of our clients, even potential clients. Stop on by, work out of here. And a lot of them do take us up on it. So
and in their work areas, so thank God I don't work in an office, right? Because I'm basically unemployable. But do offices have stuff that looks like this? Because I haven't been I've been to professional service firms' offices, and most of them, they don't look like this. It looks like, basically like you open that door after the lobby's really nice, and then you open that door and there's like boxes in the hallway, and the desk is all nicked up from where the guy's been banging with his hands with his rings, right? So like, do offices actually look like this now?
I mean, yes and no. I would say the upper echelon of the very prestigious law firms, they're going to spend some money on their interiors, right?
Right.
But even those get weathered, so they have to keep refurbishing. Sometimes they're like, hey, that's not a priority, right? Our people might be a priority, maybe not our space right now. They don't understand that plays a very important part. But no, not all offices are like that. You'd be surprised even when we walk into some architectural firms. We think, hey, they're supposed to be really nice. And we're like, wow, this is not what I envisioned for a design interior firm, right? So it happens. The shoe cobbler's kind of story. Hey, they got the worst shoes sometimes. Yeah. So it does happen. But no, I would say yes and no. We're fortunate to work with some great companies that need this, and they realize, hey, it really changes the way you feel as you come into an office. Like, I want to go in the office, right? And that's the biggest struggle I think a lot of companies are going through today, is how do we get everybody back? And it's got to be beyond the pool table and the ping pong table. It's not that, right? You got to make it so you have connections. And that's the biggest thing. How can we promote connections?
That's exactly what I wanted to pick up on. But before I do that, we should have mentioned the space that we are sitting in is in the heart of the design district in Miami. So we are in prime real estate here. We're surrounded by luxury shops. This area came out of nowhere when it was first developed. And now, I mean, it's a space where we see Art Basel, where we see tourists come in, mass. So we're in like really, really a heart of Miami. So wanted to mention that because this space, when you see it, it fits right in and it all makes sense. So let me go now back to picking up on the point where you had mentioned like some companies just don't get it. Why do we invest in these cool and collaborative spaces? Talk to us a little bit more about that, especially because you touch different industries where the space really makes a difference.
Yeah. I think off the cuff, I think a lot of CEOs and leaders don't understand that space really develops your culture. It really, at the end of the day, does start defining your culture and your brand. So they might look at it as an expense that, hey, we just need desk and we just need a place for them to sit and whatever. But they don't understand. Once they start putting the branding and they start making it where the people want to go there instead of going to Starbucks, or maybe they do go to the cafe and spend more time there, and they see that those connections of mentoring are going to the younger generations, they start understanding, wow, there's a lot of power in space beyond just what I thought, furniture. So there is a psychology behind it that I think once the leaders do understand it, and it's our job to really lay the land, lay work for them to understand that it's very important, they start coming on board. But it is a process to get them to understand that. I don't think most leaders at a high level are thinking about furniture or anything like that. So it is a process to develop that.
Let's talk about sales cycle. Because the furniture obviously is beautiful, and hopefully you charge a lot of money and you make a lot of money on it.
We don't actually.
Okay, well that's great. So,
but good to hear though.
But the thing is, this stuff it's got to be warehoused somewhere. So you need to get orders placed. What is the sales cycle like in selling? Selling the furniture, because you probably have to do like a design first and all that. So take us through the sales cycle and then tell us what a typical sales cycle is like.
There's not one typical one, but I can give you a general one. In theory, it's construction at the end of the day, right? Of some type of construction. So I think you come up with the idea, there's a need, and then we start getting involved. Whether they have a design firm or not, internally, we can start talking about thought starters. Like, well, what are you trying to do? Why do you want to do that? Again, back to are you trying to expand and just get chairs and tables in here and pack them in? Or are you actually thinking about how people work? So once we get past that, then we will design. That might take a couple weeks, maybe, just the back and forth. And then once that's solidified, then they can place an order through a distributor, a dealer. And that probably to take the furniture doesn't take that long to make. It's probably maybe 4 to 6 weeks. Then it ships and then installed probably a week, depending how big the project is. So I would say in a perfect world, you could be as quick as 3 months, and it could maybe last a little longer than that, maybe 5 months if you have some hiccups. And then you have whole delays, construction, the building's not ready, didn't pass fire inspection, whatever that might be, right? They don't get their COI. Their certificate of occupation, and that will hold up things to like 6 months or a year sometimes.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very much. But I would say a typical sales cycle is 3 months. On our end, we try to make commercial furniture very quickly, which is 4 to 6 weeks is fast.
Yeah.
You go try to order something from Crate and Barrel, it'll take a couple weeks more. If you actually get something from your home, it's going to be 16 weeks or 12 weeks. It's a long time. Especially if you're getting something imported, forget about it.
Yeah.
Sure. And so you're manufacturing that furniture, the company does?
Yeah,
okay.
We're a source manufacturer. We're out of Toronto, and we have our plants here in North America. We do stock some items, so we're very, we call it office to go. If somebody needs something right away and they're in a pinch, which happens, we have stock in distribution centers that we can just deliver really quickly within 2 to 3 days. And so it's very quick for those small little, hey, I'm in a pinch, I need something right away, or maybe it is a home office. So we understand, and we've understood that there is that need of fast speed to market on some applications, right?
Is it necessary because this is a tactile product, right? People get to experience it before they buy it. Is it necessary in your sales process to incorporate an experiential element? Do you, what percentage of your clients do you have to get into a showroom before they decide what they want?
That's so key what you just said, because our batting average is in the 90 percentile, if not almost 100, once they do come into the showroom. Because like anything, you want to go test drive the car. And we have some clients in here now, and once they get to see it, it's great to see it on picture, but to see the actual grain or get to see the look and feel, or is this going to really work in my space? Like, it looks fantastic. So it really pays dividends when we have people come through. We were just talking to a client this week, and they're like, man, going to your showroom, and actually a seller for us said, man, I have 100% batting average every time I bring a client through your showroom. I'm like, that's fantastic. So there is a lot of power in having that. And there's not a lot of competitors that do this. So to mention about the design district, our CEO was kind of a pioneer in that, because furniture stores of this in commercial in the design district is not what people think. They're thinking, Gucci or Prada, high-end retail luxury. And so for us to come here on the 6th floor in the heart of was really a bold move. And so it's paid really well for people to go, hey, I would love to go to the design district. And by the way, I'm going to stop in at Global, or I'm going to stop at Global and then go shop, whatever.
Right.
So it's really, it's not what you would typically think we're a commercial manufacturer via furniture.
I was pleasantly surprised that you were located here. But it makes sense when we hear who are your ideal clients, who are making those decisions for office spaces. Those people are coming to areas like this. Yeah. And Miami is such an easy place to fly into, right, and enjoy some time there. So we're looking at a very modern space. Now, what I want to know, though, you have other showrooms across the country. I can't imagine they have the same look and feel as the Miami space. So tell us about those. Like, where are those other showrooms, and do they each have their own feel and look that relates to that geographical
1000%.
area?
Yeah, they're all different. I was just in Philly last week, and I was like, wow, I love this. It was more of a city feel, a little bit more darker colors, just to kind of like, you're not getting the color pop that we get here when you walk in. And it was just a really cool, it fit with what Philadelphia was like. And same thing with New York. They're all very unique, and that's all intentional. We can't have this kind of feel in New York. It just wouldn't work. So we have showrooms pretty much across the country. Just opened up a new one in California, I think in Irvine. But they're all over. And with these are our tools. So when someone says to us, what's the differentiator in selling or whatever, I'm like, well, you have an amazing tool here, a showroom that really you can show people around. This is, in our industry, being kind of walked away. It's an expense where manufacturers are like, oh, I don't know if we can do it. For us, we double down, and it's one of the best things we've ever done. So,
yeah, it's smart. It's smart. Talk to me about distribution channels, right? Or you mentioned a couple of times about like selling through partners, or I don't know if it's a reseller model. What percentage of your sales ballpark is direct? So you or somebody from your team, right, connects with the end user and you're off to the races. What percentage is somebody who's, I guess, would be an interior designer or an architect? Yeah. You know, they lay out the floor plan and they say only this furniture will fit here. And I'm sure there are people that you work with who are resellers or so what percentage? And give us the different channels and what percentage comes from each channel.
Yeah, it's really a main channel that we use, a distribution network. So it's kind of like the car industry. Right, if you want to go buy a Mercedes or a Honda, you can't go straight to Honda or Mercedes. You got to buy through the dealership. Right, it's a similar thing. We don't like to sell direct because it kind of infringes on our distribution. Our distribution is a model that we actually open up. We're agnostic to most distributors, and so we have our dealers. We call them dealers. They are the ones we sell through our channel. Rarely do we sell direct. The government might have a contract that maybe can buy direct, but that's seldom because you want our distribution to install and handle all those problems, those little things that come up. And they also have other products outside of our portfolio, whether it be architectural walls or the lighting, or maybe they can sell flooring, things that are just kind of make that whole room provider as a dealer. So that is the best model for us, that we are actually very agnostic, and we're open to everybody. We're not just aligned with one dealer, one installer, where a lot of our competition might be that way.
Do you have exclusive like areas, or are the dealers? Okay.
Yeah. So I would say there's a handful of dealers here that are the cream of the crop, and they probably handle the Tri-County. There's times that they've handled the Caribbean, and we do sell to international. So that might be where we send to a freight forwarder, and then they handle it from there. Sometimes they might handle something that is connected maybe in New York or outside of the region, but it got specified and it came out of the nucleus of Miami.
Yeah.
So that would be the only time that they actually might go to something. Or they're networked with another of their partners that's out of state or something like that.
So when you were a kid, like playing on the playground, were you thinking
I know where this is coming.
Were you thinking to yourself, when I grow up, I want to lead the global furniture distribute, like I am going to align my career so that, like, you were in your house, like, how much for this coffee table? What do you give me for this?
That's right.
No, seriously, how do you get into, because you've had, based on what Nicola has told me, this isn't your first gig in furniture. No. So, like, how did you become the king of furniture?
The king of furniture. I like the way that sounds. We have to work on that. No, it's never like that. I actually always liked architecture as a kid. I always liked the creative process. And this is wild, because there's even a time that I was in women's fashion. Not many people know that about me.
Not a bad place to be, my friend.
Not a bad place. And I was really serious into, Fashion Institute, technology, and I just like design. It didn't pan out that way. That's what actually brought me to Miami. But the next thing, when I was going to school, I was working for an interior design firm, and I loved it. I loved, even though I was helping with purchasing, I wasn't doing designing anything like that. I was going to school. I made those connections and friendships, and I remember working, and I was like, man, I'm just frustrated. I don't feel like I'm doing. She's like, you should come work for a dealership. And I'm like, well, what do you do? And she explained it's all contract, commercial world. Before you knew it, I got into the business. And she said, I will warn you, once you get in this business, you are not getting out. It is like the mafia. You can try. You're never going to get out. And I did try once. I don't think, okay, I want to try something different. And it pulled me back in. So I've always had an affinity for design and creative process. The other part was, it was a close part about, hey, maybe I'm not an architecture or an architect, but I'm very closely involved in the design process. I can look at plans. I have an input. My team has an input. I understand how this process works, how I can help. I understand the psychology and working with those futurists and, people that are planning, whether it be a city, whether it be just an office. And that whole thing was sexy to me. It's always been sexy to me. Now I get to work with all different types of facets of people.
Yeah.
And so that it doesn't make it boring. It's always interesting. And it's a unique industry. It's not like you're selling a SaaS product or you're selling some widgets that are, need to be sold and the quotas that. Yes, we have numbers and all that we need to hit, but it's been pretty lucrative.
So when you entered the industry, did you enter into a sales position or were you in a different role?
Yeah, I was like an account executive, and I was learning a lot. I mean, I didn't even know what a cantilever, which you may not even know what that.
Don't know what that is.
Yeah, we use that one word when people go, "What's a cantilever?" It's actually a bracket.
Oh yeah, the cantilever's broken.
Yeah. So or a ped.
We threw out my cantilever, grabbing that book bag. Holy cow, it's heavy. Yeah.
So that kind of stuff, and it was hard knocks on understanding a lot more design, putting things together. But yeah, it started out as sales, hardcore sales. I mean, I had been in sales prior. Like I said, I was technology. I was selling for AT&T, so I understood the hard knocks of door-to-door sales.
Sure.
I understood phone calling, like cold calling. Wasn't what I enjoyed, but I could do it. And it's just once I knew those nuts and bolts, the rest was easy.
So, did you decide, I really want to go into sales? Like, how did that happen? At what point did you say, I really think that this is something that is going to work for me for a profession?
Few people would come up to me and they would say, man, you should be in sales, or you should be in real estate, or you should be in something that, you have a presence and you have a voice. And they're like, I'm like, really? And I'm like, the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh, I can do this. But I never thought sales, until you realize it's taking the information and just kind of spewing it back out to somebody that needs to know the information, how you translate that out. And so I just realized that came easy to me some way, one way or another. Yeah.
So here's what I want you to talk about. A lot of people think of sales as a dirty word. Like, it's a car salesman is what comes to mind. And people just, it's an ick factor for people.
Yeah.
So you are not the used car salesman, right? So tell us about what you view sales as, because you don't think of it as sales. So someone in your position who's been doing this a long time, is very good at this. What do you view, what you do?
Wow. And so I would call that social engineering, or definitely the way I think you have to have an acumen to help at the end of the day. So if you really want to help somebody and you're taking interest in them or what they're trying to do, I think the rest falls into place. Obviously, that's how we met. We recognized right away, there's nothing here. And then boom, we realized how we could help each other, and things really fell into place. So I think you have to have that kind of a spirit that you really genuinely do want to help people. There are people that just go for the money, but I think they're going to have a harder knock in life if that's the approach only. But no, I think to answer your question, why or how, it's just inherent. I don't think sales as the word, I've never looked at it like that. Like, yes, we have to make a sale, but at the end of the day, I think how are we getting to where you want to get, point C or D or X or Y? And how can I help facilitate that along the way? Yeah. And if I can be a node, connector, or an influencer, or something that helps with the application, that's my job, right? I don't look at it as like, man, I got to get the sign on the line. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, it's part of it's in the back of my head, but it's not the driver. I think everything else falls into place.
Sure, and at some point, what we do, we have to make revenue out of it.
Yeah, of course.
So, of course, that's a component, but for you, it's the relationship first. Yeah. And I don't even want to use the title sales, because that's not what you do. You really are a relationship builder and someone who's good at that. And what you're doing is helping other people with something that you have that can fulfill a need that they have.
100%. I think, and you guys know this better than me, you probably could give me some good stories about when you didn't, you just, hey, I'm going to help this person. I have nothing to gain out of it. Something came out of it. And I think for my career, that's always been the case. I'm like, hey, I'm just going to help them. And something happened where I'm like, it's kind of like that 10% rule, giving back to and tithing or whatever. And you just like, how did I get so much more just by giving this little bit, right? So I think that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, the stories that we hear from people like you who just look to help people. And then when the people come back to them and they say, hey, I would love to do something for you, I think that's the number one. If you can master the art of giving to people selflessly without any expectation of anything in return, but you're prepared for when they say, how can I help you? You're prepared to answer that question.
Right.
I think that's the ball game, right? Where people fall down, and we see this constantly, is they say, I've given so much. Like, we see this all the time. I've made 30 introductions and I'm not getting anything back. I'll turn to them and I'll say, all right, after you make the introductions, do people thank you? Oh, they always thank me. And I say, well, what do you say when they say thank you? I just smile and nod. And I say to them, well, here's the answer, right? When somebody says, thank you so much for introducing me to Francisco. His place was great. We had a great event there. I really appreciate you doing that. Your response is, you're welcome. I know you do the same for me.
Nice.
Because that prompts them to say, of course I would.
Right.
And then you could say, would you like to hear who I'd like to meet? But you can only say that if you're prepared to ask them for something. So, the only person who doesn't say, I would love to help you, how can I? They're psychopaths, the people who don't say that, right? And the idea is, if they don't say that, you need to get away from them as fast as you can, because they're never gonna want to be generous and be kind to you. So the people who are out there right now, if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, it's really great because Francisco's got this wonderful showroom that he can invite people to, and they can have meetings, and he can invite 1,000 people, and if 2 of them say yes, he's making money. Here's the deal. He's ready when somebody says, thank you so much. He's going to say, listen, I know you do the same for me. And I will say, of course. And I'll say, who do you want to meet? Francisco knows who he wants to be introduced to, right? You knuckleheads out there who are listening, you don't know how to answer that question. So you got to have somebody in mind. So your homework is to go through LinkedIn of the people that you're giving to and be prepared. Use a notebook, write this stuff down so that when you're sitting in front of them and they go, who can I introduce you to? Here's who you can introduce me to. I saw you're connected on LinkedIn to Nicola Gellermino. I want that introduction.
That's right.
So Francisco, segueing into that conversation. So, all right. So you're out there, you're going to these events, like you meet Nicola. What's your line that gets you into a conversation where you get to introduce what you do, right? Because it's not like you don't say, hey, you're sitting on a chair. Where'd you get that chair? Like you can't, like it's not a thing that comes up in like furniture doesn't come up in everyday, office furniture doesn't come up in everyday conversation.
No,
so how do you get to bring that up?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know. If I don't get asked, or if I get asked, what I do.
Let's do both. So I'm going to ask because that's what I do, right? The first thing I'm going to say is, what do you do for a living? So when I say to you, Francisco, what do you do for a living? What do you say?
The minute I say that, this is complete, I'll say, listen, I'm in commercial interiors and commercial interior architecture. And they'll go, what does that mean? So that's enough to go, what does that mean? Because they heard a couple words that they kind of know, but they need more clarification. They don't want to assume. So that gets a conversation going really quickly, right? And it's true. We are in interior design. We do commercial applications, manufacturing. We have all these products that sit inside the interior architecture. So that is probably the biggest thing when someone asks me. I don't go, hey, I lead a team, or if we get more into it, of course. But that means no one wants to know about that. Yeah. I have 7 people that report to me or whatever. It's not,
Deerfield Beach all the way down to the Keys. That's my area. Yeah,
exactly. To get into a conversation a little bit more, I don't know. I think you have to feel the conversation. So if we're at a Biz Now or a networking event, again, I always lead with what people do first. Mm-hmm. And then I see how I can inject something of an add value. Hey, if it's not just my connection, it's what we do. Come by, love to host you. And then that hospitality move maybe proves into something that we can talk a little bit more about. But yeah.
Well, that's great. Yeah. I love that because that's what I would do all day long. If somebody said, "Hey, what do you do?" and I was in your shoes, I would say, "Well, I do interior design, but honestly, if you really want to experience what I do, next time you have a meeting,
Right.
Bring your meeting to my place. It's gorgeous. I'll host you.
I love it.
I would
give me some good takeaways.
No, seriously. I mean, because that you have what you have is so powerful when people experience it. It's that they I didn't totally get it when, and I'll be honest with you, when Nicola first said to me, "We're going to have a meeting at this furniture place." And I'm like what? Like on the Palmetto? Like across from the car dealer? Like, really? No, it's in the design district. I'm like, really? And she said, yeah. And I'm like,
and he's still like, wait, where?
I'm like, are you sure? And she said, yes, I'm sure. I've been there. I'm like, all right, fine. We'll give it a try. But it's beautiful. So I would, like, for me, I wish I had something like this for our business where I could just get them in and have them experience it.
And this is exactly how we got here. You said to me, you walked up to me at another event and said, hey, I know you host these events. Are you looking for a space? And I jumped all over it. Yep. I didn't appreciate, and having known you for as long as I have, I didn't appreciate that you moved to this location and you were here. And the second you told me where it was, I already knew, because I knew that the typical furniture store we're thinking of on US 1 is not sitting in the heart of the design district. That retail is far too expensive.
Right.
So I already knew before looking at it, but still wanted to come.
You don't even want to know. I'm thinking like El Dorado, like, next to Brand Smart, and people are leaving their boxes for their TVs in the parking lot. Like, órale, dame eso, ven aquí. Like, that's what I was thinking we were gonna.
That's normal thinking.
But we come here and it's like, it's literally like between like Breitling and like Gucci, and I'm like, wait, this is where we're going?
That's
That's how I tell people how to find it.
Yeah.
Do you know where Gucci is? Of course, it's easy to find. Right across the street.
Yeah,
that's right.
It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. All right, so Francisco, let's do this. Tell people how they can get in touch with you, and I want to make sure, because I want to highlight this. You don't have to be in Miami to experience the great design and the furniture that Global has to offer. I think I've been to an event in Merchandise Mart in Chicago. I think you have a showroom?
We have a great showroom.
So I think I've been to an event there. You have a showroom in New York. You have showrooms in
Miami, Atlanta, you name it.
Yeah.
Philadelphia,
So how do people get a hold of you to figure out how they can go to the showroom nearest them and host a meeting, or just abuse the people there like we abuse you? How can they abuse people from Global in a city near them?
Please. Abuse more. I think the easiest way is either my cell phone, my direct number, and I have no problem giving it, which is 305-563-0785.
Okay.
Or F. Ramirez at globalfurnituregroup.com. F. Ramirez at globalfurnituregroup.com.
We're going to put that in the show notes. Yeah, we'll put it down in the show notes for you.
Absolutely. And it's like you said, we invite people to come through, and we'd love to host them. And if they need to use a space, and it makes sense, absolutely. So please come by.
As long as it's around the events that we're hosting.
That's right. You guys get
Success
first dibs. That's it.
We appreciate you. We appreciate you hosting us. We appreciate you sitting down with us and having this conversation. It's been a wealth of information for people who don't know about what you folks do, what someone like in your position does. So very much appreciate your time.
I love it. Appreciate having me today.
All right, folks, that'll do it for another episode of the Inside BS Show. My name is Dave Lorenzo, and we are here with an interview show just like this every week, every Wednesday. Also, you can check us out on YouTube if you're listening to us carrying your little Nikki G in your pocket and you're walking the dog or you're washing the dishes. You can watch us on YouTube. That's right. We have a YouTube channel. Just go to the search bar and type in Inside BS Show into the search bar. All kinds of goodies for you up there, including new for 2025 YouTube Shorts. That's right. You don't just get a full-length Nikki G. You also get a short Nikki G, which in person is not the case. She's actually taller than I am, but you can see Shorts with Nikki G on YouTube starting in 2025. If you like this show, please tell a friend. The show only grows when you share it. Make sure they know they can find us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. My name is Dave Lorenzo. I am the godfather of growth, and she is
Nikki G.
And we'll be back here again next week, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. Until then, we'll see you.